How you doing, guys? My name is Julian. I'm out here by my front yard little garden behind me, and I'm going to explain the differences between for solar systems. Most people think that really all that matters, or all that they're really selecting, is which panels. But really, a way more important decision than which panels you're choosing is what architecture of inversion you're buying. Because in reality, the inverters are going to be the weakest link of your system, and 99% of the time, if there's ever a problem with the system, it's going to actually be an inverter and not a panel. So with that being said, part of my job as a solar consultant is to in detail educate people on the three different types of systems that they can buy. You can pair the same types of panels with any of these systems, so it's not panel dependent. It's purely just based upon what type of inverter manufacturer and system you're buying. So with that being said, there are three main types of systems that people buy. The first one being just a classic central inverter. This is kind of the most traditional system. It's been around the longest. If you had been going solar, before 2005 or so, this would have really been your main option. This probably would have been your go-to. So basically how it works is, by the way, I didn't have a blue pen, so the solar panels are pink. So we have pink solar panels. So the panels produce electricity in direct current, DC, and everything in your house uses alternating current, or AC. So that has to be inverted from DC to AC. So that's what the inverter is actually doing. So the panels produce in DC, and in a classic string inverter system, the panels are basically strung in string, like a Christmas tree. And essentially, all of the DC goes down into this one box here, and then this one box, the central inverter, inverts all of the power in one place. Now, because this is the weakest link and the most likely part of the system to go bad, in the case of you having this system and this goes bad, the entire system is down until you get it replaced or fixed or whatever's wrong with it. And this, in reality, for a lot of people, takes a month or two, depending on kind of the manufacturer and their process and shipping the new unit and everything. And so it used to be, like I said, that this was really your main option, but there are some issues with it. Nowadays, there are really two main types of systems that, for residential purposes at least, you're going to be seeing. And that is the central inverter system with the power optimizers, or the micro-inverting system, which is my favorite, and I'm going to explain why. So just to make this, sorry, there are cars going by the way. Just in case you've done a little research and you kind of know what I'm talking about, but not really, if you've seen SolarEdge or Enphase, those are two manufacturers. And 99% of the time, if you are having a quote with a SolarEdge inverting system, it's going to be this with the power optimizers. If you have an Enphase quote, that's going to be the manufacturer for the microinverters. And so it's really SolarEdge versus Enphase. That's really kind of who you're choosing between. All the panels are great. The inverter choice, like I said, is way more important. So with that being said, let's talk about how the power optimizer system works. So it's very similar to the central inverting system, except for the fact that under each panel you have, and I represent it with a little orange box, a power optimizer. And not to get too techy or anything, but essentially what the power optimizer is doing is individualizing the DC current coming off the roof, so you're not limited to the weakest performing panel, which is what happens in the string system. What I mean by that is, for example, if you have one panel that's in the shade or one panel that isn't producing as well for whatever reason, the whole system is limited to that. So it's like if you have a whole house with bulbs and one bulb isn't working, it's kind of only, not getting very bright, the whole house would be limited to only that, every bulb being that light. Bright, which is obviously not what you want. So the power optimizers, for the most part, fix that. And one very important thing to know about the power optimizers is that in the case that a panel fails, the entire system does not go out. So this is very good, obviously, because if one component goes bad, like in this system, like if one panel fails, then the whole system goes out. In this case, if a panel goes out, or a power optimizer in that case, only that unit is essentially affected. But if the central inverter fails, then the whole system is out. So unfortunately, the central inverter system with the power optimizers doesn't really fix the whole reality that this right here is the weakest link, and when you only have one location for all of the inversion, you're inherently setting yourself up for, like I said, the whole system going down in the event that it fails, which they're notorious. It's like realistically, you can do your own research, but in reality, it's like 10-15% of the time they fail within the first 5 years, and it's a nightmare. So the microinverters is what I prefer. It's what I put on every single house that I've ever sold. I've actually never sold a central inverting system with the power optimizers because I just don't believe in it. I've seen so many fail, and I just wouldn't want to put any of my customers through that reality. So what the microinverters do is essentially take one of these central inverters, and it's a much smaller unit, that's why it's called micro, and one microinverter goes under each panel in the same place that the power optimizer goes under each panel. But as you can see up here, I wrote a little key. If it's a red line, that's a direct current, and if it's a green line, that's alternating current. So let's go back real fast. Sorry, I didn't explain one thing, or obviously I didn't say one thing. Basically, as the line comes out of the central inverting box here, it's green, which represents that it's been inverted to alternating current. So as you can see in both of these cases, the lines are red coming off the roof, and in this case, the line is green coming off the roof, representing that the inversion has already taken place. Now, there are a few advantages to the microinverting system that a lot of people talk about, which are definitely great. For example, you get even more production in AC out of the same amount of units, panels I mean. Essentially, if these, in all three cases, were the same types of panels, you just had four, let's say it's the LG 350 watt, all four cases, you're going to get about 3% more actual AC output out of the power optimizers and about 5% more than the power optimizers out of the microinverters. So not only are you going to get a little bit more, which is fantastic, but the most important aspect and really the biggest benefit to the microinverters, which is it's undervalued, is that because these are notoriously bad and the whole system goes down, unlike that with the microinverters, if one of the microinverters fails, only that panel goes down. So there's no single point of failure in any part of the system. So, like I said, because this is the weakest link, that's what you really have to protect against. Having a central inverter and having that same mindset with a panel would be like saying, well, instead of buying 10 solar panels where if one gets damaged and I only have to replace that one panel, I'm just going to buy one huge 20 foot by 30 foot panel, and well, if a corner gets damaged, well, I'll have to replace the whole panel, and that would cost way more than just one little regular size solar panel. Like, that wouldn't make any sense. And so why do that to the inverter process, or the inverters, especially considering it's the weakest link, and that's what we see go bad, like I said, 99% of the time. I personally have been in the industry for about 3 years, and I have literally never seen any brand of a panel go bad ever. I have seen a couple of the microinverters go out, actually 3 to be exact in total, and I've seen about 25 of these SolarEdge inverters go out. Not for my clients specifically, but like others, reps that work for the same company, and just hearing about from the project managers and everything like that. So with that being said, I really do, and I'm sure you already can sense my passion for this particular part of the system, but this is the biggest, probably the most important decision that you can make when going solar, besides of course buying versus leasing and all that stuff. It's really am I getting a central inverter or a microinverter? And by far, the microinverters are worth the money every single time. And the good news is that nowadays, they're really not even that much more expensive at all. So if you've learned one thing from this video, please use microinverters. And if any sales rep is like me, very passionately trying to encourage you to do the microinverters, they aren't trying to pull one over on you or just sell you the more expensive product just because. That could be true for certain panels. Like certain panels cost more and they're really not that much better, but any upgrades or any cost additions with the microinverters, 100% worth it. One thing warranties will never cover, of course, is the electric bills that you have to pay while your system is down. So I'd rather you have, in this case, 3 out of the 4 panels working instead of none out of the 4 panels working. All right, if you have any questions, you can always email me at julian@rooftopsolar.us, or of course call me or text me at 7